Every animal on Earth disappears overnight. No cows, no horses, no bees, no dogs, just you, some plants, and total silence. How long do you actually survive? A week? Maybe two, because you can't plow a field without an ox, cross a river without a horse, or even keep crops alive without insects to pollinate them. This isn't hypothetical. It's the exact reality ancient humans lived inside for hundreds of thousands of years, and most people have no idea how deep that dependency actually ran. Start with calories, because without them, everything else is irrelevant. Before agriculture, roughly 10,000 years ago, humans survived as hunter-gatherers, and plant foraging alone was never enough. Plants are seasonal, inconsistent, and critically low in the fat and protein a human brain demands. The brain burns around 20% of your total energy at rest, and researchers studying prehistoric diets have linked the dramatic expansion of the human brain directly to increased animal consumption. Hunting wasn't a hobby, it was the fuel behind human intelligence itself. Fat, specifically, was survival currency. A single large kill could sustain a group for weeks through winter, when plant life disappeared entirely. Without that fat reserve, the body starts consuming its own muscle, and the outcome is death. But ancient humans never stopped at meat. Every part of a kill had a purpose. Bones were cracked for marrow, one of the most calorie-dense foods in existence. Hides became clothing and shelter. Without them, surviving a northern winter was essentially impossible. Sinew became rope and bowstring, directly extending hunting range. Stomachs became water containers and cooking vessels. Bones themselves became needles, hooks, and blades. Genuinely underrated ancient technology. Animal fat fueled lamps, extending human activity beyond daylight, functioning as the world's first form of artificial light. Later, manure became the fertilizer that kept early farming societies from collapsing back into famine. If deep dives connecting biology, survival, and history are your thing, subscribing means you'll never miss the next one. Then came domestication, arguably the single most important strategic shift in human history. Dogs came first, somewhere between 15,000 and 40,000 years ago, descended from wolves. A dog's sense of smell functioned as an early warning system, and hunting partner rolled into one. Groups with dogs had a dramatic survival edge over those without. Goats and sheep followed around 10,000 years ago, offering milk, meat, hide, and horn from remarkably hardy animals. Milk itself was revolutionary, a renewable food source that didn't require killing the animal, fundamentally changing the economics of settlement. Domesticated animals also became humanity's first insurance policy. Famine, harsh winters, drought, herds could be moved, slaughtered, or relied upon when crops failed. In ancient Sumer, Egypt, Ireland, and India, cattle functioned as literal currency, which is exactly why cattle raiding became such a central feature of ancient warfare. It wasn't theft, it was an attack on someone's entire economy. If one domesticated animal accelerated civilization more than any other, it was the horse. Domesticated on the Eurasian steppe around 3500 to 4000 BCE. In warfare, it transformed everything. An army on foot might cover 25 to 30 kilometers a day, while mounted forces like the Mongols could reportedly exceed 100. Chariots functioned as the ancient world's tanks, and civilizations that mastered horse warfare, the Hittites, Egyptians, and Assyrians, dominated for over 1,000 years. Horses also compressed distance itself. Messages, trade goods, and imperial administration all moved at the speed of a horse instead of a walking pace, which is precisely why the Persian Royal Road, stretching over 2,500 kilometers, only functioned because it was built for riders. In agriculture, draft horses could plow land far faster than oxen, directly increasing food production and population growth. And psychologically, the horse gave slow, clawless, fangless humans something entirely new: speed as raw power. Accounts describe some indigenous peoples encountering mounted conquistadors and initially perceiving horse and rider as a single, terrifying creature. Some of the most essential animals in history operated far more quietly. Bees provided far more than honey. Beeswax waterproofed wood, lubricated tools, and formed the base for ancient writing tablets. Honey itself never spoils. Archaeologists have found 3,000-year-old honey in Egyptian tombs that remains edible, and its genuine antimicrobial properties meant Egyptians were treating wounds with it long before anyone understood antibiotics. Silkworms single-handedly created the Silk Road, a trade network connecting China to Rome that moved ideas, religions, and technologies across continents for over 1,000 years, all originating from a caterpillar's thread. Carrier pigeons served as long-distance communication before telegraphs existed. One pigeon, Cher Ami, delivered a message during World War I that saved nearly 200 trapped American soldiers, despite being shot mid-flight. And oxen and donkeys were, quite literally, the trucks and cranes of the ancient world, moving every stone block, harvest, and timber beam that built early civilization. Because survival depended so completely on animals, ancient humans didn't just use them, they worshipped them. Egyptian gods carried animal heads for a reason. Anubis the jackal represented the boundary between life and death. Horus the falcon symbolized far-seeing royal power, and Sobek the crocodile represented control over the life-giving Nile. In Hinduism, the continued sacred status of the cow reflects a purely practical logic. A cow functioning simultaneously as milk source, fertilizer factory, and plow engine made killing it economically irrational, not merely religiously forbidden. On the American plains, the buffalo sat at the center of an entire culture's material and spiritual life, which is exactly why its systematic 19th-century slaughter functioned as a deliberate act of cultural destruction, not just an ecological one. Today, most of that dependency has vanished from daily awareness. Food arrives wrapped in plastic, clothing is synthetic, light comes from a wall socket. But that disconnection is astonishingly recent. For the vast majority of the 300,000-year history of Homo sapiens, every single ancestor you have lived in a direct, daily, life-or-death relationship with animals, tracking them, reading their behavior, using every part of what they provided. That wasn't trivia. It was the entire curriculum for staying alive. Every moment of comfort you've ever experienced, every time you weren't hungry or cold, rests on a partnership between humans and animals older than language, older than art, older than civilization itself. Long before humans formed alliances with each other, they formed one with animals, and that alliance is the reason any of this, including you reading this sentence, exists at all.